Commitment is a state of dedication. When we commit to something, we put all of our energy into that thing. The more of our own energy that we give to something, the more committed we are to that thing. Now, the thing we have to be aware of is that we're always committed to something. When we think we're committed to something and we're really not committed to it, all that means is that we're committed to something else. It's not possible to not be committed. For example, let's say that somebody doesn't really seem to be very committed to work. Maybe that's because what they're actually committed to is escape or relaxation. But what we have to understand before continuing is we are always committing our energy to something. You can't not commit your energy to something. But whether we're aware of what that something is or not is another question. Now, it's easy to see when you look at the average physical human that all people have multiple commitments in their life. But what we have to accept is that all people have a primary core commitment. Now, this primary core commitment can also be subconscious. Most of our commitments are. Most of us are not aware of what our actual commitments are. That's why our own actions don't seem to make sense to us, much less to other people. You can think of this core commitment like a core value. It's the principal and primary value that we hold in our life. And we will always act in accordance with this commitment. We have to become aware of our subconscious commitments, especially our core and primary subconscious commitment. If not, it's going to wreak havoc on our life because we're always going to act in accordance with it, whether we're aware of it or not. And obviously, unless we're aware of it, we can't consciously commit to it. To give you an example of how a core commitment may wreak havoc on our life, let's imagine that you've just accepted a job. But let's say that your core commitment in life is to a sense of freedom. And the job that you just accepted conflicts with that sense of freedom. Pretty soon what's going to happen is you're going to rebel against the authority of your boss. Everything's going to feel crappy. You're going to begin to sabotage your job until you eventually get fired. All of this because you're not actually aware of your own subconscious commitment, which was to freedom. So obviously, because you weren't aware of that subconscious commitment, you didn't make the right choice of job in the first place. You set yourself up for failure. When we are not aware of our subconscious core commitment, we are so often completely out of alignment with our own integrity. That's why our words don't match our actions. The biggest issue relative to subconscious core commitments is in the sector of relationships. So even though not knowing what your subconscious core commitment is wreaks havoc on all different areas of your life, relationships is where it does the most damage. I'll give you an example of why. If someone does not have a core commitment that directly corresponds with commitment to the relationship and creating harmony with another person, relationships are impossible to maintain. For example, let's say that somebody's core commitment in their life is to a sense of connection and closeness. Obviously, that dovetails with having a relationship and creating a harmonious one. It's one and the same, basically, because one satisfies the other. This is a person who's going to do a lot of work to make the relationship feel harmonious. And it's probably going to work. However, let's say that you've got another person, and their core commitment is to their own personal happiness. They want to feel good no matter what. And right now, it seems like having a relationship would make them happy. But what about the day that that relationship inevitably becomes what relationships are, which is a teacher? What happens the day it becomes uncomfortable because the relationship is a mirror, basically, for everything in your life? Do you think the commitment is going to be there? Or is the commitment going to be to happiness, which seems to be the opposite of a relationship right now? So, unless the relationship is serving one's sense of happiness, the relationship is gone. Some people have core commitments that are a direct contradiction to harmony in a relationship. This is a disaster in relationships where one person has a core commitment that is in alignment with creating a harmonious relationship, and one person has a core commitment that is completely the opposite. This is a recipe for a relationship where, in order to keep closeness with one person, the other person has to let go of all of their needs and desires. They have to essentially completely comply. They're in a zero-sum game. Now, what a zero-sum game is I win, you lose. This happens so often in the spiritual community. Why? Because in the spiritual community, you've got a bunch of people whose needs weren't met by other people, and so what they've decided is that their core commitment is to themselves and their own personal sense of happiness. Now, I know that some of you are even listening to this right now and saying, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it does present serious issues in terms of creating a harmonious relationship. Because what's going to happen? Let's say that you are with a person and you decide your personal happiness is climbing Everest, and you don't care the impact that it has on your wife and children, for example. Then obviously, because it's not a major motivation to create closeness with them, your core commitment is your own personal happiness. For them to stay connected to you, which might be their primary value, they have to just give in and be at the complete mercy of what you want 24 hours a day, or else the relationship is over. Knowing other people's core commitment can make people very, very predictable, which makes a relationship more safe. This actually gives you the upper hand to tell you the honest truth, because it means that you always know where a person's going to put their priorities. So let's say that you're in a relationship with somebody, or you know somebody in your life whose core value or their core commitment is safety. You know that if they ever get put in a pinch, they're going to choose safety, no matter what that is. If you understand the deep motivation in others, you know exactly what you need to provide in order to be in alignment with them and add to their happiness. You have much more awareness about what the potential danger is also with someone, and thus how to avoid it, or if it's even possible to avoid it, in which case you know what the incompatibility actually is. To discover your core commitment in your life, you have an option. To one side of this option, you can do it for yourself. To the other side, you can have somebody else help you with it. If you choose to do it for yourself, then what you do is you let go of all concepts of what your internal commitment may be. Don't think about what you want it to be. Just drop the concept. You have no idea. Go into this with a blank slate. And then you want to close your eyes. Ask from your soul, as if setting an intention to become your core commitment. Then surrender, as if you were letting your identity be taken over completely by that commitment. What does it feel like in your body? What images do you see? What words do you hear? What feelings do you feel? See if you can define what you are feeling. The second option is you can have somebody else do this. So you can ask somebody in your life who's capable of taking their own mind out of the equation, going in with a blank slate, having no projections about what they think your internal commitment may be, closing their eyes, and assuming the energy of your core commitment. Almost like they're being possessed by it. What do they see? What do they hear? What do they feel? Can they put a definition to it? To demonstrate this, I'm going to have Blake try this. He's never done this before, so you're going to basically see how well this works. Ready? What I want you to do, I want you to get rid of all notions of what you might be committed to. Okay? So you don't know it. You're going in with a blank slate. I want you to close your eyes. I want you to ask to become your core commitment in life and see what you feel like. What feelings or sensations or images come up?
Kind of a solidness, or like a focal, really focused.
You feel that?
More than I usually do.
Okay. Focus towards what? If you were to put a word on this primary commitment, what would it be? Do you see any images with this?
Sorry, I'm focused on like the cameras and stuff. One word onto my core focus.
Yeah.
My core commitment.
You're the embodiment of your core commitment right now.
Yeah,
What does it feel like?
Resolved. It doesn't feel wavery or uncertain at all.
What does it feel like?
Feels stable. Feels
What are you committed to?
like a certain thing. Like, what am I committed to?
Yeah, you're the embodiment of what you're committed to right now. Not the embodiment of commitment.
I guess I'm committed to myself and my own wants.
Okay. Okay, so let's say that he does that, right? Now let's have me do it. Ready? Okay, so I choose to become your core commitment. So the first thing I feel is that I have only me. It's like it's me in the world and I always have me, and like that's my only security. So I can see images of myself walking down the street and I feel like I really have me, and like no one else really has me, but I have me. You know what though? I'm committed to being able to go wherever I want and do whatever I want. I can feel that. Like it makes me nervous when I think about somebody coming towards me and trying to get me to do something that they want me to do. I don't like that. My commitment's to what I want to do. Like I want to be able to float where I want. As me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So taking a look at that, that is your core commitment in life.
Yeah, it sounds completely true.
So do you see how, but like looking through your life, can you see how you've made decisions that are not in accordance with that?
Mm-hmm.
And how well has it gone?
Oh
my God, this just made totally sense. This made total sense. I just had an aha moment just right here and while we're filming this. Okay, so one of the issues that we have with Blake in the community is that we keep telling him, please answer your phone. We need to be in touch with you. Please answer your phone. 15 years of this, and he still doesn't have his phone on him. This is why. Because your actual commitment is to you being able to float and go wherever you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
So like when you're at the beck and call of somebody else, that's the opposite of your commitment, so you're going to be passive aggressive about it.
Yeah, I lost my phone the other day. It was great.
Okay, so could you see how this would be damaging in your life and career, how you need to be choosing according to this, or even subconsciously deciding, is that really what you want to be committed to?
Rather than just taking it on my own, I've been manipulating in order to get that.
And letting a lot of people down.
Right.
So do you want to be, so this is what you get to think about, and I don't want you to answer right now. You get to think about whether you want that to be your conscious commitment. If so, you have a lot of different choices to make. If not, you got to switch your life up a bit.
If I want this to be my conscious commitment or not?
Because this has been a subconscious commitment.
Okay.
That's why you don't just look at us when we say, Blake, bring your phone, and say, I'm not going to.
Yeah, but it's, well, I mean, if it's I can't really not choose it if it's.
No, you actually can.
I can choose to.
This is what's fun about a subconscious
not have
commitment. This is what's fun about a subconscious commitment. Once you become conscious of it, you can choose whether you actually want to commit to it or not. If not, you got to look at where it comes from. Even if so, you got to look at where it comes from.
Right. So if what I've actually been committed to, I don't really agree with, or I don't really want to do that anymore, there's other values in my life that I want to pursue, then I can change that.
And you got to be able to own the consequences of your commitments as well. Like if you're fully committed to work and that's really where your commitment is and you're 100% going to choose that, you got to be aware of what that means for your relationships and the type of relationships, if you're going to have any, that you're going to choose.
Yeah.
Right? You don't choose somebody whose primary commitment is closeness in a relationship. If that's not your primary commitment, you're going to torture that person.
Right.
So it's about making those different decisions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Once you discover your core commitment, look at your life. See how so much of your life and your relationships make sense now. See if you can figure out why this commitment is so strong. The core commitment usually reflects something traumatic we've experienced. They are reflective of our deepest desires, which come from experiencing what is unwanted or from not having experienced something that we need and want. From here, get rid of your ideas of right and wrong. It doesn't do any good to not commit to something that you actually do want to commit to just because you think it's not okay to do so. Any more than it does any good to commit to something just because you think it's the right thing to do. Decide whether you want to commit to that subconscious commitment you discovered, but consciously this time, and what choices you're going to make differently as a result. See the benefits and consequences of that commitment on each sector of your life. If you do not want to commit to that, become completely aware of why. What is your new commitment going to be? What changes are you going to make in your life in alignment with that new commitment? the things that manifest will always be the things that have the most energy flowing towards them. And the reality is that our core subconscious commitment has too much energy flowing into it to deny. You have to become aware of it. Life is just too painful when you have your subconscious commitment going in one direction and your conscious commitment going in another direction. So try this process out so you can get all of you on board going in the same direction and making the right choices in accordance with that. Have a good week.